Jennifer Strickland. I'm so excited to be back here for the third installment on our series on the history of feminism and how did we get where we are now. Yeah. I am here with my friend Mona Corwin. She is my resident feminist expert over here. She's an author, speaker, and the founder of the MomsLikeUs Academy. She mentors moms in their most important season of life, which is motherhood.
Yeah.
But we're talking about how motherhood got out of vogue. And so we talked about the first and second revolution in feminism, and you also became a feminist. Am I right? Tell me your story when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, you know, at this point in our culture, everybody's been affected by the feminist movement. Every one of us have a little bit of feminism in us.
Okay.
Because of the slow flow that we're going to talk about in a little bit, how feminism went mainstream. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But I want to back you up just a little heartbeat to the second wave when it was burn the bras and our boots are made for walking. Mm-hmm. And I was a little girl that was, but old enough to look at the cool girls and the cool girls that were ahead of me, who were indeed had hippie beads and they were feminist and they were, don't even ask to open up the door for me. I can do everything myself. Oh. And they were angry at men.
Okay.
And so it was an interesting thing to come up behind. So I started out thinking, oh, this is really cool. Like, I want to be in charge.
Sure.
Because isn't that our sinful nature? It's like me do it myself. Like, we don't want God's help. We don't want anybody's help. We want to do it ourselves. Even men want to do it themselves.
Right.
But at this point, women were kind of mad. And so they wanted to do it themselves. It wasn't like a good self.
It was like, I don't want a man to open the door for me because I'm not less than you or whatever they started believing.
Yes, I am.
I'm not your maid. No. I'm not your housekeeper.
No.
Well, we all know what happens when you get married. Yeah. You kind of are. Yeah. But unless you can hire one, which is a really good thing.
No,
too.
My husband says that he has a magic floor. And that this magic floor, he puts when in the morning, when he takes off his clothes at night or in the morning, they're on the floor. And when he comes back home, that there is, everything's hung back up and it's clean. It's magic.
It's magic.
It's magic.
That is so funny because
but let me tell you what I have.
Okay. What do you have?
I have a magic purse.
Okay.
And when that thing gets empty, more money comes into that account.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so we kind of like it. So everybody just like needs
so
to
it all works out. Yeah. He has the magic floor, you have the magic purse. I think I might have a little bit of feminism in me because when I first got married, I don't know who told me this, but she told me don't ever pick up his clothes because if you start picking up his clothes at the beginning, you'll be picking him up for the rest of your life. So Shane goes to his side of the bed one day, we first got married, and he's like, you know, I make the bed and I would just step over his clothes because I think it was actually my mother. Mom, I don't want to get you in trouble. It was somebody told me, don't ever pick up his clothes.
She's one of those women that I was watching.
So I was like, okay. So he was like, you make the whole bed and like you didn't pick. And I was like, well, you know, you pick up your clothes. So my husband does not have a magic floor. And he, to this day, does pick up his clothes.
Well, that's good. Yeah. My husband does do his ironing. That's because I just stink at it.
That's huge. Well, I put all of Shane's stuff away back in the closet. And if I don't, then I do have someone
we're doing
who's
right
upset.
Here? This is consciousness raising.
But we're not being negative about.
But this is how this is what we were talking about in the last two episodes about consciousness raising. And so this is kind of how it starts.
And I wanted to tell you something about that. When you were talking about the consciousness raising, you guys have to listen to the last couple of episodes if you didn't hear this, about how women got themselves all riled up in the feminist movement. But I, from the very get-go, found out that consciousness raising can happen basically in churches, especially at MOPS, when women start talking or complaining about their husbands. And so very early on, I made a decision not to surround myself with women who are critical.
That is awesome.
Or complained. If they were going to complain, because then that was going to lead over to me and he was going to go to work all day long, work his butt off and come home to a complaining woman. And I think he did a few times for sure.
Oh yeah.
And so I just kind of made that resolve. And to this day, the women around me uphold my marriage, honor and respect my husband, uphold the family, because marriage can get very, very hard. And when it gets hard, you do not want girlfriends around you that want to start harping on what a bad guy your husband is, because that can really mess with your brain. But basically that you were saying, that is what happened. So honey, if you're listening, my husband, just so you know, all my friends love you and they're for you. But that's kind of always been my bent, is to lean towards mentors and women who are not going to bitch about their husbands.
Yeah. Got to do it.
Okay.
And here's the funny thing. I met my husband when I was 14.
Oh my goodness. So young.
He can verify. He can verify. I really had learned how to control and manipulate. And that is part of what a woman is a woman because of our influence. And we are highly influential. It's one of the things that we teach in the Academy. And it is one of the things that we teach in Authentic Womanhood in the course and in my books and stuff, is like, we need to understand our influence. Mm-hmm. And just the way this whole feminist movement has moved, we've got to be able to see at this point, when we see what's happening in our world, that the influence of women is vital. And it is also the promise of what we can do to make things a little bit better for us and our children in the future. We'll be talking about that too.
Yeah, because women set the tone.
Yeah,
women set the tone in the home, 100%.
Well, they set the tone, because that's who we are.
That's who we are. We set the tone.
We're cute.
Yeah, well, we're cute, but we can be loud and we can be nasty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about that girl too.
So anything more on your story? Because then we're going to talk about the nasty woman.
Yeah. So I followed behind, and I truly would have counted myself as a feminist. And I liked the idea that I was independent and that I was going to take care of myself and I was going to do whatever I wanted. So then I had a woman tell me one day some things in the Bible and some things about the feminist movement. And I thought, I don't know if I believe that. Mm-hmm. And she encouraged me to wrestle with what God's word said, to wrestle with some truths that she had told me. And this is why I do what I do today, is because I want women, I want you to see the ground level and how it measures up to what God's word says. Now, please understand this. I feel my call is to be a woman of Ishkar. And it is a biblical term. Back in the Old Testament, King David, remember him? David and Goliath, that king. He grew up and became a great king, man of God, and he was choosing his mighty men. And those mighty men were in different groups, and they had different things that they were in charge of.
Sure.
But the men of Ishkar were the smallest group of David's mighty men.
Okay.
But the cool thing about them was, well, I think it's cool because I like to do it. It's that they understood God's word. They knew what God's word said. And they understood the times that they lived in, so they could tell Israel what to do. This is where we're supposed to be. We're supposed, as women, Christian women especially, we're supposed to know what God's word says about these things. It is relevant. It is in there. It is a design. And it's not 1950s stuff.
Yeah.
It's not even don't go to work.
That's not in there either.
You'd be surprised what I think about women working. So we're supposed to know those things, but we're supposed to understand the times we live in. And when I had to grapple with the times that we were living in, all of a sudden I went, oh, wow, this is not exactly what I thought.
Right.
And I watched Phil Donahue. I was very much a Marlo Thomas fan. I watched Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh my goodness.
Murphy Brown. She was the only one that was brave enough to have a kid. And she kept her kid, but she had the painter and everybody else watching that little baby. But all that to say, when it came to my first son, I did that nursery, and I did it just like a feminist would do it. I put everything in that room, that baby's nursery, and I wanted to make it so no matter who went into that nursery, they couldn't tell what sex that baby was. And we did use the word sex, not gender.
So what was the motivation
back
behind that?
then?
Why didn't they
think how long ago that was that those women were still saying genderless. Genderless is the goal.
Okay,
gang.
so that was a goal of the feminist movement, is the erasure of gender. So even in your subconsciousness, here you are decorating a baby's room and you want to make sure that it doesn't say boy or girl.
Right.
Why?
Well, because
what's wrong with boy or girl?
Because it was equal rights. I mean, we were equal.
But we already are equal. But I look at life through God's word. But
I didn't know it then.
But there have been historically, women have been oppressed in many cultures.
Oh, very much so. That doesn't mean God did it.
So it's not right. So it's not that it wasn't a thing. It's just that they wanted,
like we've said in all of these episodes, is that feminism pointed out problems, and they are problems. It is the way they had an answer to those problems and the method that they used and why they were doing it. Those are very, very different things. And so I encourage you women to wrestle with this like I wrestled with it.
Sure.
And I came to understand that, and you know how I came to understand this? When I realized one day, I remember where I was sitting. I was on the black sofa in that little teeny house, and my baby was sitting in front of the Smurf little record player, and he was singing, "Bweep, bweep." It's so cute. And I looked at him, I thought, you are so precious. And in my heart, I immediately thought, the world is going to hate you. And women are going to be mean to you.
Right.
And I am one of them. And I said, something's really not right.
Because he was a boy.
Because he's a boy. My son.
And men were the problem.
And
that was one of the messages.
And interestingly enough, I didn't consider my husband a problem. I think it's because we started dating when we were 14. So it was like he was my buddy, he's my friend. Like he would never do anything wrong to me. But I still wanted to be over him. I still wanted to be in control of what was going on in the house. I still wanted to get my own way. I still never asked him what he wanted, what kind of cookies he wanted for Christmas. I still wanted it to do it me my way. It's so self-absorbing. It's so self-centered. There is no self-sacrifice. There is nothing like Jesus. Nothing. Nothing like how God created us to be. How does that become a life giver? How am I a life giver when I can't wait for him to get out of the door so I can go do what I want to do? I can't wait for these kids to get grown up so I can have my real life back. I can't get a shower.
Well, you can't get a shower.
Well, yeah.
But that's just a season of life when you don't, right?
Yeah. Here's the thing. The TV, you know what it shows us? These really cool cop ladies. We're watching a bunch of these series right now, right? You watch them where she's got like her hair pulled back and she's like kicking butt and she's got her cow. She's getting everybody, the cartel, right? She can take on everything. But if you show a mother with one kid, like that's it. She's done. She cannot handle that. Like so, we actually are still despising motherhood and womanhood today. We still are. I'm sorry. I keep throwing you my stuff. No, must be good. It wants me to say something.
No, you're good. Well, so, and we saw this with like Sex in the City.
Oh, definitely. If you have a girlfriend, that's all you need.
Right.
Men can come and go.
Men can come and go.
One of those characters.
Abortion is a great idea.
Oh, absolutely necessary.
Absolutely necessary for you to be able to have sex that much. Because as I've said before, women can't do that.
No, I remember, Stevie Nicks.
Yeah,
of Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, I loved her.
I love Fleetwood Mac. I love them.
I was just crazy about her.
Right? Okay. So she said in a award ceremony that this award goes to all the women that allowed her to be who she is, and for those women that love her music and do not support abortion, they need to know that she would not be there if she had that baby. But because of abortion, she was allowed to make the music that she made.
Oh, because
I thought, whoa, I was so happy. Like, now I'm so down. Like, this is gross. Like, I don't want to listen to your music
Like,
anymore.
I sacrificed my child for this success.
And you should be grateful, and you should see how cool this is too. So obviously I am pro-life because, number one, I believe it's God's word. And number two, I have 3 adopted children. So I understand the value of children.
Right.
I'll never go down any other way. And I'd be happy to,
Right.
Yeah.
So third wave. Let's talk about. So we've talked about in the last 3 episodes. We talked about the first wave, the second wave. You've told your story. The third wave, what did that really start with? Was it the Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas thing? Was it Trump?
I got that in my notes. It's interesting. The third wave of feminism is really like raunchy and angry and ready for a fight.
That's what happened in 2017. This is what it is.
It's like it went from me, I'm going to go self-actualize to sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I can have sex all I want. I'm free love and, getting attention from men, dressing so that men, I can draw women and I can control men. With my sexuality.
This is the wave basically that started that we're in.
Yeah. And no. The raunchy one is Miley Cyrus. Just imagine Miley Cyrus hanging on that ball.
Right. Naked. Yeah.
Pretty much.
The wrecking ball.
And basically my sexuality is my power. And it's for me. And I don't need you to help me with my sexuality.
It's actually sad.
It's very sad. And pornography right now has gone mainstream because of the internet. We have the addition of the internet now. And pornography has gone mainstream. And the saddest thing, you probably already know this, but our viewers may not, that the fastest growing users of pornography are actually teenage girls.
Yeah.
And that is very sad.
It is really sad. No wonder they're rejecting femininity. Because if I was a teenage girl and I saw the violent pornography going on today, I would be terrified of men. And I probably wouldn't want to be a woman because I wouldn't want to be objectified like that. I wouldn't want to be treated that way.
And when the young girls, I'm not going to talk about that.
Okay, don't talk about that.
I'm getting off on another thing.
So the third wave is like the rise of raunch.
It is the rise of raunch power.
It's the rise of raunch power. So it's...
I'm going to be as vulgar. I'm going to
okay, that's Madonna getting up there and saying, I'm going to blow up the White House. We got Ashley Judd reading this poem, I'm a Nasty Woman, on the Women's March. If you guys weren't aware of, the Women's March had 500,000 women, the largest march in U.S. history, 500,000 women right after the inauguration of Donald Trump. I have read the poetry.
Say there's 1 million.
Well, there was millions of sister marches around the world. Around the world.
Gotcha.
I read the poetry that Ashley Judd read at that march. She's talking about misogyny and transphobia and homophobia and white supremacy and racism. And so, you have been talking about the consciousness raising of the feminist movement. What I saw at that march was here you have 500,000 women gathered being told that, Trump is, a Nazi, okay, that anyone who voted for him is a white supremacist, that he's misogynistic, which makes anyone who voted for him misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, white privilege, all of this stuff. And I'm sitting there going, these are the most ungrateful women in America I have ever seen in my life. Yeah. They were so ungrateful. Yeah. Like, you live in America. Like, we just had the Taliban take over Afghanistan, Mona.
I don't think they remembered that. I want to know where they got their hats.
I read the story of the pussy hat. It's called the pussy hat, so don't censor me there. But basically, it was, they wore pink hats that represented
But they were all kind of the same. Like, who funded this march?
Well,
we know.
I know. I think I know who funded the march, but there was a lot of consciousness raising going on at that march
beforehand.
And they had young girls there, and they're reading this poem. I'm a nasty woman. I'm an angry woman, but I'm not as nasty as, whatever, Donald Trump, misogyny, racism, homophobia, transphobia. And it sounds to me like this whole, we live in this racist, homophobic nation. You should be angry. And I'm going,
welcome to the 60s.
Yeah, but it's like I grew up in San Diego, and, we had kids of all races, and my mom was a sex ed teacher, and I don't know. We were not oppressed. We were not oppressed, but they're talking like victims. What is that? Is it because the Me Too movement, that the truth is, women in Hollywood, I was in Hollywood, so I understand, okay, Ashley Judd getting up there, the hashtag Me Too, all of that. At first, Me Too, I was like, yeah, me too, because I understand the entertainment industry.
Oops. Was that empathy I just heard from you? Yeah. See, they get you empathies. They get you to empathize with these women that are being hurt and mistreated. Yes, me too. Me too. Me too.
Or you have empathy for whatever, George Floyd, or we certainly don't want, kids being bullied for being gay or being trans or anything like that. No. We don't want that. No. Right. So we feel.
So where's your hat?
Well, I will not wear a pussy hat.
But that's the point. Is that there are other ways to do it.
Okay.
We see the thing and we say, this problem is good. Thank you for highlighting it. But we don't think that the way you're going about fixing it, how you're going to fix it, and why you're going to fix it. No, you do not speak for me. And there was a line that drew. We talked about this.
No, they do not speak for me, because I'm not an angry woman, and I'm not a nasty woman. And I don't want the young girls sitting there. I mean, I saw a sign from that march with a young girl. I mean, she is like 6 years old, standing there with her mother with a sign that says, "The future is nasty." Oh, the future is nasty. So what the heck? Okay, so.
Well, she has influence over her realm.
What are they angry about? We have every right. Yeah. That they ever fought for. We could be marching for, women under Sharia law who are being beaten to death for showing their ankles. We could be marching for something. We could be using our influence for good, Mona.
That's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're supposed to do. And the actual dismantling that has taken place, like, we don't have to wonder if the family's falling apart. We don't have to wonder anymore. We don't have to say the culture is like in the toilet. We don't have to wonder anymore. Say it's coming, like we're here. And the destruction of the family and marriage and all of that, we're about at ground level. So it's time for restoration. It's time for restoration. And women of influence that want better for their families are going to have to get their hands in the dirt of their own homes and their own lives and their own children. And they're going to have to start tilling that ground and putting seeds in it. Because here's the thing. It's not glamorous. They don't have costumes. You are going to, a wrecking ball does not look like a building block. You know what I mean? We're going to be building things up. We're not tearing things down. And when women start to get together and start doing that, great things are headed for us. And I have a secret into that I'm going to share with you later.
That's such a tease. Wow.
It is a tease.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the players in the third wave.
Okay.
We had Anita Hill. We had the Clarence Thomas.
Crazy.
We had Kavanaugh. What was that? What was that about?
The Anita Hill thing was wild.
Okay, talk about it.
Well, because he was a black man and he was going to be on the Supreme Court. What the heck? This is amazing. Like, we should be, right?
Right. But not if he's not pro-abortion.
Oh, wait a minute. Exactly.
Because that's
the agenda, the true agenda is
children are the problem.
Well, it's Marxism. It's to literally make our government, it's liberalism, it's progressivism, it's everything that the left is about. And our middle ground in America has kind of shrunk.
Yeah.
The middle ground has shrunk. And we used to be a Christian Judeo society, and that's what our country was founded on. So any kind of a republic, which we are a republic, we are not a democracy. We use democracy, but we were made a republic for a reason, because a democracy says we vote on everything. Well, Hitler voted on everything, and look who won. So we are a republic. Our Constitution is the most glorious thing that there is, which is why the ERA didn't pass. Some of you may think that the ERA, that the women's movement,
the Equal Rights Amendment,
it did not pass. It is not part of our Constitution. It passed in the government, but then it had to go around to the states to be ratified. And it did not get ratified because guess what?
Why?
Godly women that said, we've had enough of this, stood up and they fought. They fought in the correct way. They lobbied. They had groups.
But what was wrong? What was wrong with the Equal Rights Amendment?
Well, first of all, we did not need it.
Okay.
Because we already had the First Amendment. They were saying that, and they still say, the First Amendment does not include women, which is not true. There is no lawyer in the world. There's no constitutional professor that will tell you that. It's not. But they basically get to say whatever they want because, the truth is only one way. And if you want to spread stretch truths and, you can do that.
So the ERA never passed because it was never necessary.
It really was not necessary because of our the Civil Rights Amendment, and also the Equal Pay Amendment, which was in 1963 and 1964. So by the time they're talking about this in the late 70s, Phyllis Schlafly got a group of women and they started going around and having their own groups. And they did letter writing campaigns. Okay. Imagine that. Mm-hmm. So they were influencing, using what they felt was right. They were influencing the people that were making the decisions, which actually is exactly what the first wave women did.
Okay.
They influenced the people that were going to make the decisions, which is the proper way to do it.
So basically, getting back to the third wave, we're basically in the wave. You said something on the last episode that really stuck out to me, saying that the women who went into those women's studies programs are now running our government. Today. Yeah. Okay. Now, who is Katie Crenshaw? Like, what's her story? Like, what's her piece in this third wave?
She has a very interesting piece that I think brings us into the transgender stuff. I know a lot of our moms are concerned about this. It is always the question. I just did a mom pop-up. We have a phrase in what I do. I said, motherhood is not a natural talent. It's a skill and you can learn it. And so we're constantly learning new ways to be a good mom, be a good wife, to take care of our homes and all of that, and use our gifts and talents the way God's created us to do. And we just recently had a pop-up on what to do about this transgender stuff and to educate us. So it was, these are the things that moms are very much concerned about.
Very.
And it is knowledge. You must have knowledge. And you can't just wait for your children to come home and tell you, hey, I heard this weird thing, because they're gonna, maybe what they hear, they don't think is weird. So they don't come and tell you. Right. And our schools are exactly what they said in that, y'all didn't hear it in the second episode, was what the litany that they would say to get at the consciousness raising meetings that they had to destroy the American family. How do we destroy the American family? Destroy the patriarch. How do we do that? By taking away the power, by destroying monogamy, to literally destroy the family, promoting promiscuity, eroticism, prostitution, abortion, and homosexuality, and to become a genderless society. This has been from the get-go.
Now, is that what Katie Crenshaw has brought in?
Katie Crenshaw has brought in a really unique thing. It's almost like everybody's really excited or they're very excited. Progressives and liberals are very excited about this because it is almost like the consciousness raising method, for like in the second wave.
Right.
They were so excited to find this radical weapon.
Right. And what's her weapon?
CRT.
Okay.
Critical race theory.
So bringing that into the schools.
This is why everybody's mad about critical race theory. And if you don't know about it, then you can either come on board with the Moms Academy and take my authentic womanhood courses. And all of this is part of what I do. The crazy thing is that CRT says exactly that. It's CRT, and she had CRT, and then it goes into intersectionality.
Intersectionality.
Thank you.
Okay, what is that?
We've done a few of these today.
What is that?
Okay, that's where everything crosses. It intersects.
Okay.
So when you say, what is a woman in CRT? Are you a victim? CRT is there's victims and there are oppressors.
Oppressors.
So you're the oppressed or you're an oppressor, and you can only be one or two. And if you, it has its own really nasty parts that I think are really not biblical at all. Like God doesn't think those things. So it can't not. It doesn't match his character. So those things do not work. But where it gets crazy for women is that what is a woman? Well, a woman is oppressed. We've already seen this we've been told this since the 20s.
They're still telling women
we're
this.
Still oppressed. And like you said, we're
not
oppressed. We're not oppressed.
So
we literally can do everything we want, unless you want to be a mother and a wife and take care of your home. Then you are a parasite. You are dull. You are trying to take everybody back to the 50s. They took the word trad wife and they just put it in the toilet. And we can talk about that another time, but it's just really, really wrong. So anyways, all that to say, intersectionality is you're a woman, but what color woman are you? Are you a woman that identifies as a man? Are you a man that identifies as a woman?
Okay,
so
hold on.
This is actual, you can read what it means.
Teacher.
It's crazy, I know.
How are these feminists whose whole thing was woman power, woman strength, girl power,
Yeah.
How are they honestly promoting that men who they treated were like the enemy? And I mean, we've seen so many weak men in it. If you ask my husband, what's my pet peeve? It's so funny. Like every other people, like normal people have normal pet peeves, right? Like you leave the toilet seat open.
What's yours?
Weak men. Weak men. That is my number one pet peeve.
You need to be curious about them and find out about their mother.
Okay,
because their mother might be a feminist.
Probably, but they. And if they're angry, their mom might be a feminist too.
Well, we haven't even touched on emasculating. What we've done to men is ridiculous.
There's so much emasculation of men in the culture that weak men. Would you hold on to this?
I know.
Okay.
It's all my good stuff.
Okay. She keeps dropping her papers for those that are listening on Apple iTunes. Okay.
I just get excited.
So hold on. We're going to wrap this one because I want to do the last episode on what we can do. That's a good answer. Okay. We have to get to the answers.
Yeah, and I have such great hope.
But there's been so much emasculating of the men. You know, there's been this season the last 10 years, 15 years where you see these powerhouse women who rule the roost on TV, and these weak, kind of dumb.
Oh, everybody loves
men.
Raymond.
Yeah,
poor Raymond.
No, like these poor
Raymond.
So why? So they had to. That men were the problem. We had to rule over them, which obviously this all comes from the garden. This whole desire for women to rule over men. Men want to dominate women. Women want to rule over them. And
there's sin.
It's just a frustrating relationship.
Yeah, it's a curse.
Whereas we were created equal to co-reign together.
Oh yeah.
But why would the feminists now get behind men in women's sports?
This is really confusing me. I'll just go back to James 3:16 and stand on that. Where there's envy and strife, there's confusion in everything, evil thing. And it's just like John 3:16 that offers us great things. James 3:16 is like the devil's motto. Like if you see confusion in every evil thing, this is not of the Lord. Like you need to start looking. You need to wrestle with what you're seeing because it's not. Yeah, the intersectionality and the CRT and what this woman has put out has taken off like wildfire. And it is definitely the moms that are in the schools and in the school boards saying, we do not want this in the school, instead of just thinking that they're being conservative or whatever. You need to look at what it says, because I guarantee you not many moms will be okay with this.
Yeah.
But they're not going to help. They're not going to help, Riley, what's her sweet name? Our swimmer.
Riley Gaines.
Yes, they're not going to help our sweet Riley.
Who's not? The feminist.
The feminist. No, where are they at?
But Riley Gaines, I mean, basically, I saw an interview the other day. She was asked, like, what made her finally rise up is when she tied the guy. He's a man. He's a swimmer, man. In the women's division. Mm-hmm. And when they tied, they said he had to take the trophy, even though they tied. And she said, why? And they said, because they needed to get the picture of him with the trophy.
Yeah. But you notice they never show him in his swimsuit, like from the waist down.
I really hope they don't.
No, well, because he hasn't had all of his surgery. Just saying. You're talking to Mona Corwin, like I'm straight up. And Riley also said that how uncomfortable she was when she was in the dressing room.
Well, yeah.
And full on.
But the feminists are not going to stand up for her.
They're not I don't have to say,
all right.
It's not my opinion. They definitely are not. They're
Here we go.
Doing it, y'all.
Hey, Riley Gaines, I'm just letting you know. We are standing up for you.
We are so standing for you. We're doing our part,
for
Riley.
You. On the I Am a Woman podcast, we are for you. And we are going to stand with you because women deserve to be protected in their sports, in their bathrooms, in their dressing rooms.
And where are the dads?
You know what's the cool? This is how we're going to end this one.
Closing up.
Let me.
This is what happens when we get together, y'all.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Where are the dads? And I'm glad you said that. Where are the dads? Guess what? The dads are standing with us.
Yes.
And this is the truth, is that when mothers and fathers, when men and women stand together, we're unstoppable, because that is God's design. Mm-hmm. God's design is that we would stand together, and love protects. God is love. Love protects. What do men do? They protect. What do women do? We protect. And so when men and women stand together, we are unstoppable, and you will not see us back down. Nope. So Riley Gaines, we're with you on the I Am a Woman podcast. Mona Corwin, the history of feminism, consciousness raising. We are going to end the next episode on what women can do.
Oh, I'm so excited
to use their influence for good.
I'm so excited.
I'm so pumped.
You don't know.
I can't wait to hear. Thank you so much. I'm a woman, and my name means life.